Hi, Matrix. Welcome to today's lesson. This is all you need to know about advertising in English Paper 1. That's section C. This is mostly for home language students, but I'm 100% sure it would work for first additional language students as well because it's the same thing, right? So this is just a little trick that you can use to get um, 10 out of 10 in this section. Okay, so this is advertising. Quick recap. What is advertising? Okay, advertising is the use of language and visuals to persuade or influence people to buy a product, support an idea, educate, or change their behavior. Remember, you've got commercial advertising. So that's advertising that is used to persuade people to buy a product or a service, and non commercial would be advertising that's used to educate people or make them change their behavior. Okay, let's move forward. So, all you need to know, not all you need to know, the most important thing that you need to know about section C is that you need to know about your visual and language techniques. Okay, remember that in advertising, you've got visual techniques and language techniques. So, these are techniques that you use to persuade people, to entice people to buy your product. Think about what you would do if you were selling a product or a service. You would use the pictures, you would use photographs, you would maybe highlight your text just so the poster, attracts the reader and entices them or makes them want to buy your service or your product. So let's talk about visual techniques. So these techniques are important because they attract the attention of the reader. So you've got large or bold headings, those are visual techniques in an ad, highlighted words, unusual layouts. Sometimes you have graphs in posters as well. Fonts, the fonts are usually big to try and attract the reader. Or pictures and photographs. They can be colorful, they can be interesting and unique. Anything that will stop somebody in their tracks, something that is eye catching. Okay, so they use these techniques in advertising, okay, especially in section C. Language techniques, you've got slogans, emotive language, exaggeration, rhetorical questions. You need to be able to identify these when you are faced with an ad in the exam. Okay, you've got puns, repetition. Sometimes they use, there's a clever use of language, there's alliteration, they are catchy and punchy headlines. Remember, if you wanted to sell something, you would honestly go the extra mile. You'd use alliteration, you'd exaggerate. Okay, you'd say, "Oh, our product, if maybe it's a product that helps you sleep, it helps you sleep for people who struggle to sleep. You'll be sleeping for 90 days. You'll never stop sleeping." They're exaggerating, okay? Sometimes they'll use puns, they'll use repetition, okay? Alliteration, that kind of thing. Emotive language is a big one in these exams. They'll use language that touches somebody else's emotions, or they stir something within them. Maybe they'll use words like, you want to buy this product so you can feel strong again, okay, so that you feel happy again, you have your joy back, that kind of thing. They try to persuade you using all of this colorful language. Okay, let's move forward. Now let's jump straight into exam style questions, what we're here for. Okay, so the first style of questions, the first style, okay, they'll usually ask you to link the image or the visuals to the message of the ad. Okay, they often ask, how does the image link to the slogan or the phrase? Or they'll ask, how does the image link to the message or the purpose of the ad? Remember that every single ad has a purpose. Okay, and they will use these images, they will use, these words to try and bring that message across, to try and reinforce the purpose. Okay, so always connect what you see. If you see birds in the ad, if you see people, colors, or movement, to the advert's main idea. What is the person in the picture doing to reinforce the advert's main idea or the purpose or the message? Okay, so if the advert shows a person, they'll ask how that image supports the message. So you need to look out for these kinds of questions and know how to answer them. All you have to do is link the image, find things in the image that support the purpose, or what you think the purpose of the ad is, or what you think the purpose of the slogan is. Okay, it's just all about, because they're usually just testing whether or not you are able to see how the images contribute to the purpose of the ad. Okay, they're testing you. For example, let's look at this ad from November 22. This is a grade 12 paper, home language, English, right? It says it made shoes shine in the 70s, it makes beaches dirty today. Okay, so this ad, if you've done this past paper, I will summarize. If you haven't done this past paper, I'll summarize it. This ad was raising awareness of, containers and plastic making beaches dirty, okay, polluting the beaches, right? And the question they asked was critically discuss how the appearance of the container supports the message of the advertisement. As you can see, this container appears to be battered, and there's a lot of wear and tear. It doesn't look fresh, it looks like it's old. Okay, so you can see that it itself, it looks very dirty, right? So how does that support the message? The message of the ad was these containers and these plastics, the plastic packaging is destroying beaches, is polluting the ocean. The plastic is still floating in the ocean, and it's damaging wildlife at sea, right? Damaging life at sea. So how you would connect this image, you'd say, okay, this image looks battered and dirty, there's a lot of wear and tear, therefore it supports the message of the ad that beaches today are being polluted by plastic and plastic packaging. So this would get you 3 marks. You would describe it. You would describe the image and then link it to the message. Okay, it's that simple. Let's move on to a second. Oh, sorry. You need to spot persuasive or stylistic techniques. This is always a question they ask. Honestly, it will always be there. Questions like explain the persuasive appeal of one technique or explain the persuasive technique of one stylistic technique. Remember, what are your techniques? I just spoke about them. They're visual techniques and they are language techniques, but you need to go a step further. Which language techniques were they using? Are they using alliteration? Are they using puns? Are they using, what else is there? Rhetorical questions? Are they using repetition to try and persuade us? That kind of thing. And if you notice visual techniques, are they using bold letters or, bold headings? Are they using, unusual layouts? Are they graphs? That kind of thing. So you need to be able to spot persuasive or stylistic techniques. Okay. So look for devices like repetition, slogans, rhetorical questions, or direct address words like you that make the advert feel personal. And always explain how does it convince the audience to support the message. So how does that technique, how does this alliteration persuade me to support the message? How does the pun persuade me to support the message? How does the you? I've also seen a lot of personal pronouns being used like you, ours, we. Doesn't that just feel personal? Sometimes they'll use that in ads to try and make it feel more personal and just closer to home so that you feel something. It's that emotive language that makes you feel like you're a part of this mission and this message, okay? Remember, that's the whole point of ads. You need to spot what they are doing to try and convince you, okay? So, for example, here's an example. Okay, so this is a grade 12 paper, November 2024. This was an ad about, educating people on sports and how it, shines a light on South Africa as a whole and, positions South Africa positively on the global stage. Okay. So here's the question that they asked. They said, refer to the written text, inspiring excellence through, ellipsis to the world. So from this point right here to this point right here, world. Okay. They want you to refer to that written text. They ask you, with reference to one technique and one example, comment on how the advertiser promotes the campaign. Can you see? They're asking you to show how the technique helps promote the campaign. So obviously when it's promoting the campaign, it's sending the message across. Okay. So there are many different, and there obviously are referring to language techniques in this case because they say refer to written text. Okay. Now there are so many techniques that they've used. Can you see inspiring is in bold? It's in bold letters. It's in big, it's in a larger font. There's excellence. Even in the language that they use, excellence, okay? Inspiring, that emotive language, okay? A driving force that inspires our people. Our people, they're making it personal. Can you see? I'm going to show you I'm going to show you now. This is the, what is it again? The answer. These are the answers from the memo. Yes, this is the memo. So the memo says the bold font in inspiring. Can you see? That's a technique that you could have mentioned. Okay. Foregrounds the initiative of uniting South Africa through sporting successes. So these are the different techniques that you could have mentioned. Obviously, you would get a mark for the technique mentioned and explaining how it promotes the campaign. That's your other 2 marks. So the advertisers uses emotive diction, metaphors, bandwagon. Can you see? Driving force, global stage, strives, inspiration, team, to appeal to the reader's sense of patriotism. So that's basically one's love for their country. The alliteration in people, positions, positively draws the reader's attention to their roles in creating positivity. So it emphasizes, what they're trying to portray. So you have all of these answers, all of these different techniques that you could have mentioned to get your 3 marks. Can you see that it's all about finding the technique, spotting the technique, and understanding how it sends the how it supports the purpose of the ad. Last one, be ready for grammar and structure questions. Now, the last 2 questions of this section are always grammar and structure questions. That's where you can score easy marks, okay? In November 2023, they asked you to use the word welcome as a verb in a sentence of your choice. So you could just come up with the sentence, use welcome as a verb. You could, there's another question, account for the use of the apostrophe in Levi's in the logo of the advertisement. Obviously, the apostrophe basically functions as possession, okay? They'll always, I've seen in the past 3 years, they ask this question about the apostrophe. And then here they are to pick what kind of sentence this is. That's also a language question. And then in 3.4, they'll say rewrite the following clause as a statement that includes a subject, be part of a team. If you were to include a subject, there would be you should be part of a team, that kind of thing. So the last 2 questions are always grammar and structure questions. They're always out of 1 mark. So that's pretty easy. So the apostrophe question is a big one, I've noticed. But in the last 2 questions of this section, they'll always ask you grammar and structure questions. So be prepared for that. So, in summary, you need to understand how the visuals and the language work together to sell an idea or a product, and always analyze the ad on your own before looking at the question. So, what I mean is, you have the ad in front of you. Try to find the techniques that they might have used. Did they use bold letters? Did they use a very huge picture? Is it colorful? Okay, obviously it won't be colorful. It'll be black and white in the exam. But what are the elements used in the picture? What are the people in the photograph doing, so you try and analyze it yourself. How does it make you feel? What do you notice about the fonts and the images? Are there any techniques that stand out to you? Is there a slogan? That kind of thing. So the advertising section can be so easy if you just understand what they're looking for and what they're testing you on, and you know that your last 2 questions are language, so you just try and you try and get the most marks in the first 3 or the first 4. I think there are always 5 or 6 questions in this section, in the advertising section, but you'll be fine as long as you watch this video and take everything from this video and apply it in the exam, or apply it in you practicing the past papers. You'll probably get 80 or 90% for this section. So thank you so much, Limies. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I wish you all the best for your paper 1. Goodbye.